Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Vented Uplift. Happy Earthquake Friday. A lot going on here in New York, New Jersey, Long Island, even though that is part of New York, but some people know Long Island. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm Chrisie Canny. I'm the CEO of Vented in Brooklyn, the aromatherapy jewelry company with the mission of helping you feel good, smell good, do good. We love to raise money and do all different charitable things. So it was a great past month of 40-day Lent challenge. We raised over $80,000 for our book vending machine. So stay tuned for that. It's super exciting. But things that you should know. Yeah. I like to bring women on who are helping other women, right? In life, if we don't help each other, we're not getting anywhere. And I think that what happened today, and we all got a little scared because some of us we've never experienced an earthquake. So it was a 4.5, 4.8. What did they say?
4.8.
4.8. Right? All right. So I think we're all took a little moment and we're like, oh my God, what's coming? What's happening? So we're going to get into all this chat. So everybody, welcome Teresa I always mess up your last name. Lacorazza. Say it.
Lacorazza.
You got it.
Yeah. You got it.
A few times with us, a fellow breast cancer survivor. We'll touch upon that a little. She's got some stories, this lady. But she's out there helping others, giving back to the Thompson Towers and volunteering her time. So let's get into her bio quick. Let's see. She holds a master's degree in education from St. John's University and spent over 12 years teaching in New York City. Teresa is a healing arts practitioner with over a decade of experience. Her mission is to inspire women and motivate them to identify their self-limiting beliefs, ditch self-sabotaging habits, and retrain the brain to generate new positive, healthy thought patterns so that well-defined pathways to desired goals are created. With extensive knowledge in modalities such as EFT, emotional freedom technique, meditation, visualization, positive affirmations, and intuitive development, Teresa knows how to individualize and tailor the healing process for each client that guarantees success. After raising 2 children, one being born premature and needing much assistance, relocating several times, and battling breast cancer, Teresa has become passionate about mental health and the mind-body-spirit connection. She is here to lead women on a journey that will teach them to heal themselves, empower themselves, and love themselves in a loving and compassionate way. She's a native New Yorker that currently lives in New Jersey with her husband of almost 25 years and their 2 college-age sons. She loves to visit with friends from Maryland and Tennessee. Yeah, we both have this love of Tennessee and Nashville and spend time with family and entertain. But what's missing in here is that you're a big-time author now.
I am. And I never thought in a million years that I would ever become a published author. I've written things, I've written articles, but I never considered myself an author because honestly, I struggled through school. In first grade, I almost got left back because I couldn't read. And going to Catholic school, the thought of, and I actually did, I had to get extra help, in that polyester uniform in the summer. It was just heartbreaking, right? It was awful for a 6-year-old. But I always struggled, and I probably had some kind of learning disability that was just never picked up. I had to work extra hard. But I got through it because it was like, okay, this is just what I have to do. But yes, I became an author. My first book came out October of 2022, and volume 2 of the series is being released on Amazon on April 16th. So it's right around the corner. So I'm really excited, really excited.
All right. So for those of you who never had the love, I can't get words. Okay, really. I said we should have started drinking the whole, I'm like, I need a drink. Even though we're not supposed to say we need a drink. It's a bad thing. But it's Friday, I thought we could have moved happy hour up because it was Earthquake Friday. So,
yes. That was crazy.
Really? Okay. So then we can be like, okay, so where were you? So you told me where you were. Share with everybody where you were today at 10:23, I think it was.
I was in my bathroom and I was brushing my teeth, And I live on a really private street, and you just, not a private community, but you're only driving past my house if you're supposed to be there. And I thought to myself, holy shit, that tractor trailer is tearing down the block. Then all of a sudden, everything started shaking. I heard banging, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? And I step out in my bedroom, and I see we had clothes hanging in there moving. I'm like, holy crap, we're having an earthquake. And the last time I experienced that, we were living in Maryland. And literally, I saw my doorway go like this. So it was a stronger earthquake. And I'm like, holy shit, what is going on? And I'm laughing and I'm scared. I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? I didn't even know what to do. And then it was over.
Yeah, I think we should all look up what we're supposed to do. I think, wait, so a hurricane's a bathtub, right?
Yes.
Twister, tornado is a bathtub? No. Yeah, and I think under a door frame or a table, okay, we all really should, because we're all sitting here waiting for,
The apocalypse?
Well, yeah. The So I was grabbed coffee with my daughter at Coffee and Collectibles here in Staten Island, which is an adorable antique store coffee shop. So, I mean, I don't know how things didn't fall off the wall, because I mean, they have the shelves stacked, right? And you're sitting having coffee, and these things are up on shelves, not secured. It's not, because we're not an earthquake area,
No.
But so there was probably about 30 people in there, and then it started, and then we're all like, and then it kept going, and we're like, is this an earthquake? But people who were in 9/11, we're all like, wait, what is that? Before,
Right.
because, I think our brains go to the worst thing instead of
Right.
something natural,
Right.
and then we're just all like, okay, wait, yeah, it must be. And then it was like confirmation was coming, and my daughter's work, thread is going, did you feel that? I'm in Jersey. Did you feel that? I'm in the end of Long Island. And so we're like, oh, and then everybody started looking. We're like, okay. But you know what? It was not in that moment. And there's something I actually wanted to write about the past 2 weeks. Right. So, with Easter and, love thy neighbor and do unto your neighbor. In that moment, we all turn to get home safe, and connected.
Right.
Right. Because it's oh, so, in what you do, and I know that you and I have talked lately, and that you've needed a little, even what you do, and even if you listen to Mel, oh my God, could my brain work today? Mel Robbins the other day, she had on a Zen master, and he talked about how no, he still struggles with stress and anxiety every day, and you got to
Right.
check in and do stuff. It's how can we remind ourselves to live in that moment of always being kind and nice and grateful, and realize that we don't know what the hell the next second's going to bring.
We really don't. And as well as I do, unfortunately, we're in that club, we're breast cancer survivors, right? It's that same moment, the moment you get that call, hey, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you have breast cancer. It changes your whole life.
Right.
So just we look here, and my mother-in-law, who lives in Las Vegas, she called, she's like, oh my God, are you guys okay? I'm like, yeah, the epicenter is 20 minutes from me. I don't live far from Bridgewater. So we were talking a little bit, and you think about what happened in Taiwan, the earthquake there, where buildings were collapsing. So thank God we didn't experience that, but it was still, again, you're like, what is going on? It was crazy today. I chuckled, and my one son slept through it. My other son, he was in school, and he said that it threw him out of Wi-Fi. But everybody was like, oh, what's going on? My parents are in Long Island, and they felt it. And my father thought they live in independent living. They're 91 and 96. And my father said, I thought the lady next door, I thought her dryer was off balance.
That's, that's what happened with so Mike was home, um, and I'm like, so how was it, the house? Because our house is almost 100 years old,
Wow.
right? So I'm like,
Yes, you got to
you know,
worry.
how'd the house do? What was it like? And he goes, I went running downstairs. I thought the dryer was, the wash machine, like, was off. And then he's like, wait a minute, there's no wash on. Like, like, you haven't been
Right.
home. There's like, like, I didn't put any on. You haven't been home. There's no wash on. He was like, so yeah, but I think we all should take today,
Yeah.
as you said, you and I've always celebrated that as breast cancer survivors, we have a special gift, right?
Yes.
Because,
Yes.
and every other breast survivor, most of them have the same feeling that, like, thank you for this gift and thank you for the sisterhood,
Yes.
because, it bonds us. And then it also reminds us that you never take life for granted.
100%. You don't want to be in the club. You don't want anybody that you know to be in the club. You don't want anybody to join you. But yet here we are, and it was our boobs that brought us together. You know, it's like, let's face it, it's our boobs that brought us together, and we just clicked right away. We have a lot of the same thinking. We both have that entrepreneurial spirit, but that spirit, like, let's bring our sisters together. Let's lift them up. Let's teach them and show them how they could live, more, better, and sometimes different. A lot of times after you have cancer, you do have to live differently, right? So this is what you and I do. We find them, we bring them, we lift them, and we hold them when we need to hold them, when they need support. You've done that for me so many times, and not just,
We do it
health
for each
wise.
other. We do it for each other. We all,
Right. It's what we do. And you mentioned something really important, and it's what I talk about in the first volume of the book, is gratitude. And when you say that, being grateful, people think I'm crazy when I say I'm so grateful that God put cancer in my life, because it changed me in so many good ways. I learned to say no. I learned that it's okay to say no. I learned that taking time for myself is not selfish, it's selfless. I learned how to ask for help, which was, oh, I don't know, no, I'll figure it out.
Mhm.
I learned how to ask for help. So when you look at all of those things grew out of the fact that I had breast cancer. So how can I not be grateful that I became more, better, different because of something that was shocking and horrible? And I don't want to say tragic, because I'm still alive. So I don't, that's a very strong word, but that was my journey. And during that journey, um, other things evolved for me, which landed me in this book. Because after I had a partial mastectomy, 8 days later, my house was destroyed in a flood from Hurricane Ida. And here it is, my house is filling up with water, and I can't lift anything, I can't push anything, I can't pull anything. So we're trying to get all of our really important things to higher ground. 2 or 3 floors were destroyed. And the water, we were very lucky. Again, I was grateful that the water missed our electrical box by about 2 inches. So we never lost power. So we were able to live in the house. I didn't have HVAC until October. So there were many days sitting on my leather couch and just crying, because in my house it was 88 degrees, but I had power. So the nights that it was hot, I took a shower and I had the ceiling fan on. So it was bearable. It was great. I was like, okay, we're all alive. We're good. I'm going to be okay. I knew my cancer diagnosis was good. And then in October, I started a month of radiation. So I had guys here fixing my house. I'm like, bye guys, see you later. Got to go for some treatment. And I would go, and I learned to ask for help. So many people said to me, Teresa, how can I help you? So my neighbor next door, she's like, Teresa, I don't know what to do for you. How can I said, you want to drive in for treatment? Sure, why not? Okay, I'll drive you. And my husband's like, why are you bothering them? I'm like, they asked. And you know what? We're friends. She's a friend of mine. She was able to do it. She drove me, and if we wanted to talk about cancer, we did. And if we wanted to talk about our kids, that's what we did. It didn't matter. It was nice to have that camaraderie, that friendship. So, like I would never have asked in a million years, but I was like, you know what? I don't really feel like driving by myself. So that came out of it. Oh, hey, why don't we do this? No, I'm not up to it. I'm tired. I'm not up to, nothing against you, but I'm just physically, I'm not up to it. I learned how to say no, and that's okay too. In the midst of all that, I developed a gratitude practice, and that's my lesson that I teach in the first volume. And it's so profound. I used it every day. I used it on days where I was really scared. I used it on days where, even though the doctors said you will be fine, in my head, I'm like, I have cancer. How can I be fine? You go down those dark rabbit holes, right? It's really easy to do that. You know that firsthand. So I use this gratitude practice, and it really immediately shifts the energy. Immediately.
Right. You want to give us a little tip how to do
Sure.
it? Practice?
Sure. So when I take you through the practice, it takes a little bit of time because you have to think a little bit. And, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to think about times where you really felt grateful, a couple of times, and jot them down. For me, it was the day that my oldest son was born, because I went through 5 cycles with in vitro. And I had some bleeding in the beginning of my pregnancy. It was high risk. So that I remember that day, and I was so grateful that God gave me this beautiful gift. Like that's my moment. It could be the day you got married. It could be the day you got this job, whatever it is. And you think about it. And then if you have more than one, just feel into it. Feel into which one really makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. That's how you know that's the one. Okay. And then you close your eyes and you visualize and relive that moment. Because it's your memory, you can relive it. And you bring all your senses into it. What did it feel like? What did the air feel like in the room? What clothes were you wearing? What did the clothes feel like on your body? What did you feel inside when you get to that point that you feel gratitude? What did you see around you? Close your eyes and look what was around you. Then look a little bit further, find another detail that you may have missed. What did you hear? Were you having a conversation? Relive the conversation. Listen, and if you were having a conversation, what sounds are going on in the background? What did you smell? Bring in all of your senses. And when you do, really feel that gratitude as if it's happening now. And when you're grateful, you feel it physically, right? When you feel it physically, that's your moment. So when you're in times of despair, or you're not feeling good, or you're worried or anxious or scared, take a few minutes, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and just relive that moment. And just say out loud, God, thank you. I am so grateful for whatever it is, or whatever it is in that moment. I would say, God, I am so grateful that I have a clean bill of health, or whatever it is. And the more you practice this, the less time it will take your subconscious mind to get into that feeling of gratitude. You'll be able to close your eyes, take one deep breath, picture it, and immediately you will feel that gratitude. It's like Pavlov's dog. Ring the bell, eat the food, ring the bell, eat the food, ring the bell, the dog's drooling. Why? Because you train your brain to do this, right? So that's what I teach. And that was really my saving grace through my whole cancer journey. And I still use it today because, I've dealt with anxiety for most of my adult life. That's the first thing I do. It's my go-to tool.
Okay. Well, let's throw in there that our ages, and
here we go with menopause, right? So, I remember I was about 45 years old. We were living in Maryland at the time, and I woke up out of a dead sleep having a major anxiety attack. My husband was like, "What's the matter?" I'm like, "I'm having a panic attack. It's like 3 a.m. What?" And I had no idea why. Flash forward to living in New Jersey. This was a couple of years ago. I went to a seminar and I'm listening to a gynecologist speak, and she's like, "Yeah, you're in your 40s," and boom, anxiety attacks. And I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "It's all part of perimenopause and going through menopause." So here I am now, making my way through that and dealing with major anxiety. And I'm finding that I'm attracting those kind of women that are just starting or in it or past it, and they're dealing with all this, hormonal stuff that goes on. And it's like, okay, just take a deep breath. And again, take a deep breath, go back to that space of gratitude. And then once you kind of get out of, because you might have 2 feet in that rabbit hole, once you're on solid ground, my next line of defense is EFT, which is amazing. It's one of the best tools that anybody, and it's so easy to learn. And that's why I love teaching it to women, because once you know how to do it, you don't need me. You don't need to work with me anymore. It might take you a couple of practices, but eventually you'll have to go back, when something becomes bigger than you are and you run into an issue. But then,
for those who don't know what EFT is, can you explain it and just
Absolutely.
give a short vision? I know, like there's a quick face visual you can practice, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So EFT is emotional freedom technique. It's also called tapping, and it's been becoming very popular over the last couple of years. So this is how I like to explain it. Picture whatever is the most peaceful place for you. And in order for you to get there, you need to walk through a forest with lots of trees. We are all balls of energy encapsulated in this physical thing that we call a body. So when our energy doesn't flow correctly, we have blockages, things pop up. We have physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. So the trees represent those blockages. Now, it'd be easier if we knock down some of those trees to make a straighter path. When those trees fall, sometimes they'll knock over another tree. That subsequent tree represents hurts that we have buried so far in the back of our minds that we may not even remember them. So we hear all the time people that may have been abused as children or something very traumatic happened as a child, and they have no recollection of it. That's what those subsequent trees are. So you don't have to relive those to heal them, which is beautiful. So we clear our way, and that's how we get to this space. So EFT works very much that way. It's a cross between acupressure and acupuncture. It was developed in 1990. And all you do is tap on different meridian points throughout the body to eliminate those blockages and make your energy flow correctly. And meridian points are just our electrical circuits in our body. So there's one here, and there's one here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. And as you're tapping on those spots on your body, you're talking about whatever it is that's bothering you, or your problem, or your issue, or your pain, and it'll eliminate it. And I like to say it's kind of like Tylenol. You have a headache, or you have a fever, you take Tylenol, your fever goes down. and then sometimes it'll go back up, right? So sometimes when you do this, it will eliminate the pain for a while, and it'll help you to get to the root of your problem or your issue or your pain. And then you may have to do some more tapping around it, depending on how deep it is. It could be just very superficial. Sometimes if it's anxiety around, like I have major anxiety now around driving, right? So I can use this to be like, okay, I have to drive over a bridge today, and I'll be calm to get over the bridge. And then I don't need it anymore because it's done. But if it's for something, if, again, I have white coat syndrome. I'm sure that you have it too, scan anxiety, right? So I have my mammo coming up in 2 weeks. So that's something where I'm going to have to be like, okay, if I feel it coming up now, I'm just going to tap it away. But it's going to come up again because I didn't hit it yet, right? I didn't get to my appointment yet. So you might have to use it again and again. Or if it's something very deep rooted where it's you feel unworthy, or you have such anger because someone did you wrong, or whatever it is, you're carrying around guilt or animosity, whatever it is, it might take a while. You may have to keep revisiting it, but you're peeling away the layers of that onion to really get to the root of your problem, because we have the symptoms and the symptoms show on the outside, but we want to get to the root of the problem. And EFT helps you to do that more quickly than just regular talk therapy.
Yeah, you need like lots of input. I was listening to Dr. Amen, and I'm not going to remember the name of the test, but we all like this childhood trauma. Like some people are like, "What? I didn't have any trauma," right? And then you go through this questionnaire. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. It's like, "Oh, did you have divorced parents?" There's 1 point.
Yeah.
Did you have parents that fought? There's 2 points. Like, and it's all these like, and like, and if you're above a 4, like, yeah, you have. And I'm like, oh, I think I was like ticking up. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And because people, I was having this conversation yesterday with an amazing woman from the Truth Catalyst. She's really awesome. And we were talking about trauma. And, there's a sliding scale with trauma. As a kid, when I was maybe 3 years old, I got lost on the beach. That was traumatic. Probably why I don't like the beach today. Do I remember it? Was I okay? Yes, I was okay. Obviously, I'm okay. And then I look back, and then I had physical trauma. I had a part of my breast cut off. That was physical trauma. And then, you have other things, whether it was a bad breakup when, even if you were, 15 or whatever, you had the bad breakup, it's trauma. So we have this scale. Trauma isn't always,
you got hit or raped or whatever. Right.
Right. That's not always trauma. So we think, and because I think many people think in terms of something so drastic as that's traumatic. And yes, it is. But there are other traumatic things that happen that we just didn't label as traumatic.
100%. And then, then I was listening to another podcast, and I think it was the Harvard study that's been going on for 80 something years and studying men, and, and looking at like how you're really happy and like certain things, what, like, studying all these people and how it affects them. And it's like, they said, like, if you don't have that original bond with a parent, that it really affects you for the rest of your life. Like if you don't like, and he put it to this way. So like, he's like, like when you're in your park and you have your kid and they go running and then they come back and hold your leg. And then they go running and then they come back and like sit down again. And that he goes, they always know there's a home base.
Right.
So he goes, so if somebody's not bonding or they don't think that they're worthy from way when they're little, they think that way the rest of their lives. It was like, it's so interesting. Like, I've been talking about like, I've been this year like going through menopause and
Yes.
trying to do all these things. Like, no, it's not going through. I'm in postmenopause. So, as we studied, menopause is
Fun
just a day,
times.
people. Who knew? Menopause is just a day. Listen to these podcasts and you learn a lot. So, so I was told I was pre-diabetic. Mommy has early onset dementia, for years, but every now and again when she was really sick, it really started showing its ugly head. Um,
Right.
but so I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? So and I've been, instead of like watching Netflix all the time, if I was cooking or cleaning, I was obsessed with, call the midwife. But so I did it like, okay, I'm not allowed to watch anything or listen to anything unless I'm learning something. And
I
then,
love that rule. That's an
right.
amazing rule.
I'm like, I can't. I have to. I cannot let, we already all suffer with the brain fog from going through menopause and being pregnant, like all the things as a woman and these up and downs of our, of estrogen and progesterone, like everything that goes on. I'm like, I have to take control, so I gave up sugar. If it's sugar, like candy, like I gave up all that. And, like this whole year and focusing, I'm like, I have to learn, I have to change, and I have to be in control. So listening to all these things like with EFT and learning all about the brain, I mean, the brain is an amazing thing.
Yes.
So what I want to hear, so what did you write about in the book too that's coming out this month?
Great. So in the second volume, I write about EFT and I give an EFT script on anxiety. My story there is about my son, Anthony, my youngest son who was born. He was born 6 weeks or almost 6 weeks early. He almost died twice after he was born. He decided that it would be better for him to come 5.5 weeks early and spend the first month of his life in the NICU because that's where he wanted to stay, I guess. I don't know. And at this point, my son James was 17 months old. So my kids are really close in age. And I tell the story about when I was in recovery. I ended up having an emergency C-section. I had gone into premature labor, and they said that they had to take the baby because the KB level was elevating. So the baby's blood was mixing with mine. Basically, I found out later on my placenta was already separating. So had they not taken him when they did, he definitely would have died. So they take him, and I'm in recovery, and I see two neonatologists walking towards me and my husband, because he was with me, and I'm like, that's not a good sign. When they took Anthony out, we heard the cry. We were like, oh, thank God, because they were afraid that his lungs were underdeveloped. So they gave me a shot to kind of boost that.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up not doing anything because they said that he couldn't breathe well. So he was on a respirator for the first 3 days of his life. But not only that, when anybody touched him or handled him, his heart rate would skyrocket. So I wasn't even allowed to touch him, hold him, feed him. He was being fed through a tube. When I was finally able to hold him, he looked like a plucked chicken, but he was over 5 pounds. So that was actually worked against him because his body was so big, his heart had to work that much harder because his body was so big. Then he developed a hole in his lung. He needed a blood transfusion. Let's see what else happened. And then it was when they sent him home, they didn't send him home with any monitors or anything. It was like, well, what do you mean? And the doctors were like, oh, you'll be fine. I'm like, how am I supposed to know? Like, if he turns a little dusky, just flick his little heel and he'll remember to breathe again. Oh, thanks. Do you know who you're talking to? Crazy here? So he had the issues with his heart. Every time he would suck on the pacifier, he would forget to breathe, which would make his heart rate go up. It was like this. So we walked out and the pacifier went right in the garbage. Like that didn't even come home with us. It was really tough. And then it was years. It was about 2.5 years of lots of therapy. He had OT, PT, speech and feeding therapy, and special ed. And at one point we had OT, PT, and speech 5 days a week and special ed 3 days a week, which was a lot. which
Yeah.
was, so it was like a revolving door, and it was this specialist and that specialist and MRIs and this doctor and genetic doctors. And, we found out that he has Kabuki syndrome, and which was at the time, I guess he was still in diapers, so he was a baby. There was only, I don't know, maybe 100 people in the world that had Kabuki syndrome. So,
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
when I told I remember crying on my way home. We took him to a geneticist up at Columbia University, and I remember driving home and crying and getting the pediatrician on the phone. I'm like, they said he has Kabuki syndrome. She's like, what? She's like, I've never heard of that, So it's basically, they are named after people with the Kabuki makeup, the Kabuki dancers, the makeup, like they have the facial features like that, which I didn't really see, but he had like extra skin on the tips of his fingers and his toes. He didn't really have the flat nose, but he was small in stature, which we found out later on when he was about 5 that he had growth hormone deficiency. So we went through that testing. So he had that. And well, now he's 6'1", but that's thanks to the drugs. So he had all this going on, and with the Kabuki syndrome, he has a mild to moderate learning disability. That's really how it kind of presented itself in him. So this was just ongoing and ongoing. And after we had taken him home for a while, my aunt had called me up and she said, how's it going? And I'm just like, how's it going? I was like, I have no idea what day it is. There, like it could be 3 days and I could still be in the same pajamas, because one day just went into the next and it was just a blur. I was the only one who was able to feed him. He never developed to suck, swallow, breathe. It was a nightmare. So I went down. I was in this really dark place, and my aunt said to me, I want to gift you some sessions with my friend Holly, who's an EFT practitioner. I'm like, okay. And at that point, I had heard about it, didn't really know much about it. So this is about 20 years ago. I was already meditating and doing yoga, things like that, even though I put that on the side after I had my kids. But I was doing that from before I was married. So I was like, sounds great. And I remember having my first session with Holly and sitting there and going through the first round of tapping and going like this. And I was like, what just happened? Like, I felt my whole body just felt relaxed. I was able to take that deep breath and have clarity for just a moment. And I wasn't anxious. So I kept working with Holly for a while, and it was just amazing. I could not believe that something that looks so silly, you're tapping and you're talking and you're hitting your head and you're pounding on your collarbone, that it made the anxiety become manageable. And in many cases, it was eliminated. So for me, it really helped me get through what was happening with my son, because it was very traumatic.
Yeah, I would say.
And then I never quite thought, and again, I didn't think of raising my child, because, as a mom, you go into mom mode. I got to do what I got to do. You don't think of that as being traumatic, right? Because he didn't die. He didn't have, this awful disease. He had issues. He had some hiccups here and there. And we ended up relocating, lost touch with Holly for a little bit, and then we reconnected. We started working together again. And in the middle of a session, one day she says to me, and she's extremely intuitive, she says, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? She goes, this. I'm like cleaning my house, which I'm not doing because I'm talking to you. She's like, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And that put me on my path to become a practitioner. And then I started working with people. And back then I was working as a health and wellness coach. So I was helping women and men lose weight. And I would teach them EFT when they hit plateaus, to help them with cravings. I actually have a course that I recorded, to help you on your weight loss journey. So it helps with that. I have another course that helps you with procrastination. It really does help with anything. And I noticed now with the whole menopause thing, that chapter of my life started before I even knew that it really started. But in the thick of it now, it helps with menopause. So in that chapter, I do tell about my story with my son and how I found EFT, and I do include an EFT tapping script. Very general. I use that, and that's in my second book, in the second chapter. That's coming out on the 16th. So I'm really excited about that.
Very exciting. So what is the name of the book that you're part of?
So it's holistic mental health, and the lead author is Laura Mazzata. In this book, I am chapter 4. Volume 2, I am chapter 13. So if you would like a copy of this, you can just send me an email, and I will autograph it for you, or personalize it for you. I shouldn't say autograph, personalize it for you, and I'll get it out to you. And this one is $25. We just send me an email, and Teresa at healingpowerandlove.com. I can get that out to anybody who would like it. And you know what? Why don't we raffle one off?
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Exciting. What, volume 1 we're doing?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
yes. Volume 1.
So volume 1, we're going to raffle us off.
Yes.
So what do they have to do?
Let's see. What do they have to do?
Can we share this and we could post it? We could create
Yeah. Let's make sure that they
practice your Canvas skills.
practice my Canvas skills. Yes, I took an amazing class the other night where I learned some great things in Canva. Sure. Let's think about that. We'll get them to like our page and your page, follow us on Instagram, give a shout out.
Sure.
And then we'll do some kind of drawing.
Right.
We'll figure that out.
Well,
yeah.
I'm very excited for you.
Thank you.
And you're available to be hired for EFT as well.
I am. I do one-on-one sessions. You don't have to worry if you don't live close, because and the funny thing is, through COVID, when I couldn't meet face to face, I was working with my clients over Zoom, and it actually works out better for so many people, because they could be in the comfort of their own home, where they can be vulnerable and transparent. And when they do face whatever it is, most of the time you're going to cry, right? This is what happens when we do spiritual work. You end up crying, which is normal. They feel very safe in their own home. So I do it through Zoom. Unless you live locally, I do have space, office space that's local. I'm in Cranford, New Jersey. But yes, I do. I also do group classes. If you have a group of people, and I love doing the classes, if you have a group of people that have a similar issue, then that we can do a group Zoom. And if you're really local, I can come to your house and do it, in your home, and we do fun different things, and we could do meditation, or we could do EFT, whatever it is, fun stuff. So yes, I do work with people one-on-one.
Yeah.
Women, yeah. Especially if you're feeling anxious and you're going through menopause, yes, let's connect.
Yeah, and importantly, like maybe we should do a group thing, because so through my good rabbit hole of research, the things that will help: de-stressing, right?
Yeah.
Taking time for ourselves, right?
Yes.
Being surrounded by other people who are uplifters.
Yes.
Very, very supportive. Faith is another good thing too. Yeah. Like how to unite. And then just, realizing that what's important in life, time well spent, or time working like a crazy person. Somebody said, like, in 20 years, when you're done, whatever, when you're like on your deathbed, are you going to say, I wish I worked longer hours? Or are you going to say, I wish I spent more time doing what I wanted to do?
Right.
Yeah. So, just keep it as a reminder, everybody, to like, the day of the earthquake, let it be your little shake up to go and do what your dreams are. and not be afraid, and know that, we're all here to support you. So reach out to Teresa and, start the EFT. Maybe we'll do something. She's raffling off her book, chapter. Why can't see? Look at really. I've been doing so well. See the first book in the series. Yeah. And I did send you that email. See, look, I was like, wait, I forgot, but I did send it to you. I just didn't change the, what it was. So you didn't know what it was. So everybody have a great weekend. Keep doing good. Have fun. Hopefully we have some sunshine and rainbows and nothing else crazy with the solar eclipse that's coming on and all the wackiness. Just remember to be a good person, because you can be kind to people.
Mother Nature is like, don't forget me. I'm here. Yeah.
All right. Stay 1 second. All right, everybody. Have a great one.
Thanks, Chrissy.
You're welcome.